up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Shine a Light podcast. Today there is a lot to talk about in the football roundup. It's the FA Cup final, the Premier League season is over, transfer talks are beginning, Manchester United is linked with everybody under the sun, and we're joined by another guest, an Arsenal fan and a Scotsman. It's already a dodgy combo, but it was a great interview here today. I hope you guys do enjoy. We have been joined by Rich Heaney. This man is a 3-time-a-week vlogger, makes great content. He's hopefully travelling to Bali in September, so check him out. His links are down below. But an Arsenal fan nonetheless. We will take his opinions with a grain of salt, but I hope you guys do enjoy nonetheless. Now, I've had to do a couple of cuts for this podcast because we had some technical issues, but I will still sort out all the main stuff as well as clips coming on later in the week. So I hope you guys do enjoy nonetheless. Go subscribe to me, go subscribe to Rich. His links will be down in the description, and let's dive into the podcast.
Okay, mate, how's it going? Firstly, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. But yeah, going straight into Arsenal, awful season. I grew up watching Arsenal, probably similar to you, like you've watched Chelsea growing up and you're used to seeing them win. I grew up, watching Arsenal, and I was used to seing them win. Maybe before.
So you've been prime Invincibles time.
Exactly, yeah. Whereas before, I've seen Chelsea going from sort of where Arsenal are right now, almost like a sort of mid-table-ish team, almost without offending you, but to then really title, pretty much expecting them to win the title or at least challenge for the title every year. Whereas right now it's hard to adapt to where Arsenal are right now, and over the last probably 2 to 3 years. It's been a strange process seeing them going for exactly what you said there. We were prime Invincibles, getting used to that, and then all of a sudden now it's we're just happy to get to Europe, even Europa League. It's things are weird right now. But yeah, I was just happy to see the back end of that season.
Are you feeling positive about the future?
I am. We've got money, and you need money now to compete. We've got money. We've got the big stadium. We've got a lot of resources, as in we've got a lot of young players coming through. We've got still our name as well can attract big players, and also the way we're going. Arteta coming in, I feel has been a good addition. Yeah, I think there's a lot of good signs there for Arsenal, but I just think we've got to be careful on what we do from here, because I've seen it with teams, you look back at Leeds, for example. I know it's a different era, but big side, and then they've just I know they're coming back now, but you see it so much with teams, and it's just very easy to be a big side and just think you're a big side and actually not invest heavily. They've got to invest for me. You look at the competition around them. If we need to be back to where we want to be, or if we want to be back to where we want to be, then we've got to start investing heavily. We can't just expect to go and spend 90 million on one player like Pepe and expect everything to change. We've got to be spending 200 million on maybe 3-4 players and actually really build a team around those guys. So we'll have to wait and see, man. But
I think certainly your comment about Leeds, it's a whole financial whirlpool right there. I mean, the parachute payments don't. I mean, I'd be surprised if Arsenal go down. You're obviously you have been the longest standing team. It's around 117 years. I think you've been in the top flight, longest standing team in the highest English tier. If you go, it would be a big shock. But as you say, parachute payments aren't going to cover, and even shifting from an Arsenal to obviously the likes of a Bournemouth and a Watford and Norwich that have gone down this season, it's obviously very complex once you get there, because you think over the past 10 years we've seen Portsmouth, Wigan, Bolton, Blackburn, all of these, many others, Sunderland, all of them drop into that third tier. Leeds did at a time as well, around 2008, 2009 era. They were seeing in the third tier as well. So it's a very slippery slope, I think, is the threat that a lot of teams can come under, that if it can all go wrong very, very quickly.
Yeah, very quickly, we were struggling to get... The biggest thing I see is, we struggle to get results away from home. So if our home sort of form holds up, we'll always be okay. But, it can easily happen where, you just get a couple of games where... The thing is now, everything's getting closer together.
Yeah.
Like the smaller teams are having more and more money because of TV and like advertising and all the rest of it. So everything is getting closer together. So if we still want to be a big team, we've got to invest heavily to keep ourselves apart from the rest. If we don't, then we're going to fit into that bracket of, you know, even look at Aston Villa. You know, they've got a lot of money, but they're not really spending it. So then they struggle. And if we're not careful, I know we've got more of a sort of like, we're a bigger club than Aston Villa, there's no question. However, you know, if we don't spend the money that we have and use that sort of like power, if you like, in 5 years' time, who's to say that we're not going to be in a similar situation as to Aston Villa?
No, yeah.
You know, and Newcastle have been, you know. So it's a weird one, mate. Like, we need to realise that we are Arsenal, and we need to start acting like a big team again, I think. And that'll help, I think, just like psychologically as well for the players. You know, I hear them talk. You know, we all follow our own team, and you invest a lot of time into what the players say, and you hear a lot of players, especially when they sign for Arsenal, like, you know, they're always going to say things, but yeah, I signed for Arsenal because of the name, and like, this is a big club, and blah 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 blah. Well, then they get on the pitch and they don't quite look as if they believe in themselves as a big club, you know, and that's the most frustrating thing for me. But yeah, it can go one way or the other. I would just hate to see us stay where we are. Yeah, I mean, obviously I would like to see us get back to winning ways. I mean, look, to be fair, like, this is, I think, our 6th cup final in 7 years. So it's not bad.
Certainly not a bad set of run, no.
I mean, don't quote me on that. I think it's around that. I think it's our 6th. I want to say it's our 6th.
We've had 3 finals in the last 10 years, or 3 wins in the last 10 years. And then excluding this one, so that's at least 4. I can't recall whether you've lost.
Yeah, but it was Europa last season, and then the FA Cup pretty much every season, you know. And I think it's been, and then we had the. Yeah, I think we are. I think it is around 6.
It probably
in 7
is, yeah.
years, or 6 and 8 years, something like that.
You've certainly been consistent.
Which isn't a bad record, you know. Exactly. But that's the sad thing now, though. It's almost like we are a cup team, and that's frustrating to see. I'd like a league run, you know, and just be there. We're saying that we should have won it probably the year Leicester won it, but that's a different matter. But never mind.
Talking on these kind of teams that you mentioned, the leagues merging together. Do you see teams like a Leicester or Wolves, being able to join? Maybe not that top tier where we see City and Liverpool clearly have a realm of their own at the moment, but joining that second tier on a more permanent basis. Or do you think you'll see them like we've seen Newcastle, like we've seen Everton, come up for a few years and then drop off? And
they're an aging side, I believe. You know, in another 5 years' time, they're going to have to replace these players. You know, the likes of Vardy, who's been a standout player for them. Like, he's not going to be still able to be as good as he is in even 3 years' time. So who did they replace him with? You know, he got a Golden Boot this year. To get another Golden Boot winner into a Leicester side is going to take a lot of money, because you're looking at like an out-and-out goal scorer that can instantly adapt to the Premier League. So unless you buy a Premier League proven goal scorer, he's already going to be at a big side. So then you've got to invest into maybe a foreign market, and then if they're already a proven goal scorer, which they probably are, to get that sort of competition into the side that you would need, there's going to be other big clubs after them. And I just don't know how Leicester can attract a big player if other big teams are interested, you know. And that would be my worry for Leicester. I'm not worried, like, I think, you know, would they finish higher than Arsenal this year? And, you know, they've finished higher than us a couple of times in the last few years, and I respect them. I just don't see how that can continue. For me, anyway, I don't know. That's just personal. I think they're going to be there, like, in and around the Europa sort of spots, and might run into top 4 on the odds.
Yeah.
Same with Wolves, you know. But I don't see them threatening for the league. I mean, they might have like a one-off again, but I can't see them like consistently challenging. You know, you look at how they dropped off after the lockdown sort of break came about. Like, that's a worrying sign to me. You know, they were in such a good position. I think they were like.
They threw it away.
Yeah,
completely.
They did, and that's a worrying. Like, for me, I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, like, that's a complete, like, you've completely bottled that. And to me, that just shows like a lack of belief, a lack of, you know, back when they won the league, they had players that, you know, carried it like Kante, you know, players that just wouldn't crack under that sort of pressure. Whereas now, I don't know if they've got that same mentality in the team. And Wolves as well, they were shocking from the break, after the break as well. They weren't the same team.
Yeah.
So I don't know, like, it's a different mentality to go and actually challenge consistently. It takes a lot of like leadership and a lot of players believing in the same thing, and I don't know if those two teams have got that. I think it's different playing in a side when you're constantly playing above your expectation levels than playing with expectation levels on your shoulders, you know. I think it's very different when you go out on the pitch and expecting to win and having the crowd on your back, knowing that if you don't win by 2 goals, you're going to be like, you know, like I've been at, you know,
into in the news
yeah, exactly, Arsenal games, like, you know, and we're going mad at, like, you know, shouting at young players, like, just because they've put a pass wrong and we're 1-0 up, you know. Whereas you look at a Wolves maybe game and, you know, they're like, if they're 1-0 up against a team, they're like, yeah, this is great, you know. There's different expectation levels for certain teams, and yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it goes for sure.
No, it will be. An interesting name that you brought up a few minutes ago was Jamie Vardy, and you've probably seen it on the sheet as an interesting point. He is technically retired, but it wouldn't be the first man that we've seen come out of retirement and return to the international stage.
Yeah.
Do you think he is A, needed? B, would you take him on the plane to Euro 2021?
100%. I mean, let's not forget here, I'm Scottish. So, like, if I was managing England, I'd want nothing but the worst for them. So I wouldn't.
That's a good point now. Think about it.
I wouldn't take him. But saying that, like, if I had to put my England cap on just for like 10 seconds, you've got to take him. Like, he's the best striker you've got. I know you can argue Harry.
Above Kane?
Yeah, I think so.
Interesting.
I think for me, Vardy offers. I think he's a better player for England as well. Maybe not being proven, but I think for me, I would rather Kane in there. I would rather Vardy in there with the pace he's got, because you've got so many pacey players around him for England. It would be silly.
He fits that fast-flowing football.
Absolutely, and it just offers. Like, I think now to challenge at international level, you need someone like Kane. Don't get me wrong; he gets in the right place. And he gets the goals. As much as I hate to say it, but he does. But Vardy, to me, I don't know. Like, I think he just offers a different dimension. You know, he's arguably just as clinical, and he's pacier, and he's. I don't know. I just think he's good. I think you have to take
the argument against Kane is he can be at times with a flat track bully.
Yeah.
You often see him picking on your Norwiches.
Yeah.
And obviously penalties, whether you like weigh in on that or not.
Yeah.
Has he always performed against that top side, and does he fit from what we've seen in the system that you think we have Sterling, we have Sancho, we have Rashford,
exactly,
and then moving backwards, the likes of Grealish that hopefully should be in the side come next year.
Absolutely, you know, like you've got a lot of pacey players again, like I said, and I don't know, I think Kane's a good player, don't get me wrong, he's a great player, but, you know, Vardy's, you'd argue that Leicester, although they finished above them this season, did they finish above them last season, Tottenham? I think they did, didn't they?
Ooh.
Oh no, they didn't. I don't think they did.
No, did Spurs have UCL?
Yeah.
They must have finished all less then.
Yeah, and so, you look at the two sides, and really, Kane should be scoring more goals than Vardy. You know, given, you know, you've got the likes of Eriksen behind him and like players like that, like that can literally put the ball in the sixpence for you. But then you look at the likes of Vardy, and he creates chances out of nothing. You know, it's different, and I think at international level, no offence to England, but they need something like that. They need someone to just do something.
The spark.
Like, yeah, exactly. So I mean, look, he got Golden Boot. You can't leave a player that got Golden Boot out of your international side going into a major tournament. You just simply can't. Like, it would be.
Gareth might try it.
Yeah, but
I'm not counting it out.
I don't know. I think it would be silly. You know.
It's going to be an interesting call. And then you've got the likes of Abraham and Ings, and you don't know who's going to be coming through in the future. The big concern I have with Abraham actually is I think he's a difficult one. I see him very much as, I'm concerned we could see him as a Sturridge or a Welbeck.
Mate, like he's like you guys.
He's the two names that spring to mind for me with him.
Yeah, exactly. But
not a promise when they're young.
Absolutely, and I speak about, again, Scott. Like, so I've got a different perspective on the England team because I am Scottish. But you guys want to be competing with the best countries in the world.
Yeah.
You know, you think of other countries, who's leading the line for them. You know, the countries that you really want to be competing against, and you believe that you're just as good as, if not and or better than, on your day. You've got to have good strikers leading the line. You know, people like Kane, like Vardy. Abraham doesn't cut it for me. He's not proven yet. Anyway, maybe in a few years. But for me right now, like, I know you're a Chelsea fan. I'm sorry to offend you, maybe, but for me, like, you know, there's a reason that you just invested so heavily in Timo Werner.
I agree with that 100%. To be honest,
you know, like, you're going out and buying a German striker. If he was good enough, he'd be there. For me right now, he's got a long way to go.
I don't think with Abraham he adds enough to the team.
Yeah,
I think he's similar to Kane in a way, in that he's very much good in his own element, but as a team player, he's really not doing a lot. I think that's the reason Olivier Giroud's come back into the team. Is Giroud? You think back to 2018 France. Giroud didn't get a goal, and you think of the players that he had around him: Mbappe, Griezmann, Pogba. He was in that team because he creates the plays. He's the man in the middle.
I said it for
linking the team up.
I hated seeing Giroud go because he was an Arsenal player. Do you know what I mean? Like it, you know, that sort of style. He fitted that mould, like the little touches. He was similar to sort of Bergkamp. A lot of people might laugh at me for that because Bergkamp was pure class. But the touches that he had, you know, not thinking about the goals, but like that link-up play, the hold-up play. You know, you could in troubled situations, back against the wall, you could lob the ball up to Giroud. He could just sit on a player, take a touch, and hand it off to someone then that was coming to support. He was so good at that. You know, he's not the fastest, but, you know, definitely a classy sort of player. And I think you've got a good player in Giroud, and I hate to say it and see it, to be honest, because I'd love to see him back in an Arsenal shop. But anyway,
that's an interesting question. Just that it springs into my mind. If you can have one of these lads at your club, are you taking Giroud or are you taking Lacazette with current Arsenal? They're very different players, but who do you think will fit the system better?
With current Arsenal, I'm taking Lacazette.
Taking interesting.
I think Arteta's given him, like, under Emery, he looked as if he belonged in the Championship. I'll be honest, but you know, I still supported Lacazette because I know how much of a classy player he is. But you look at his hold-up play though; it's not too dissimilar from Giroud. Like, he's got very good spatial awareness. Like he links up the play really nicely. He's got a good first touch. He's actually got he's got pretty good vision, you know, for a striker, and he's not selfish. Like, I see him, he almost wants to get a goal for Aubameyang more than he wants to get a goal for himself, which annoys me at times because he's clinical. But when he's on his day though, he's class.
Definitely a top player. I mean, I think the big thing with those Giroud and Lacazette is they just pull in so many players.
Exactly,
It's not the same as Messi, but it's that same kind of thesis in the way.
I know what you mean.
I mean, comparing Messi to Giroud is very strange. But Messi, you think back that you stick 5 men on him.
Yeah.
Obviously, Giroud isn't putting in 5 men, but he pulls in a man. He can pull in 2 men, and he's forcing other players or the defenders in, and allowing the space. And especially when you have, and I'll be interested to see if Chelsea run a 2 up front next season, depending on if we sign Havertz, because. You think about it, Werner's the man. Werner's our Aubameyang. He's got the pace, he's got the finishing. Giroud can be the man creating the space as he's done this season, but he's not going to be reliant on goals anymore, which I think is going to make hopefully a huge difference. But transfers are certainly going to be interesting this season. Obviously, I brought a few up, and one man that's actually been swinging around the States a little bit is Kingsley Coman. Can you see a Manchester United deal going? Because United, obviously, they always seem to be linked with everybody under the sun. I mean, I realised about halfway through the transfer list I put together here of possible targets that 80% of the list seems to be United. Yeah. And it's the same every summer. Out of the likes of the Coman, Sancho, Grealish, Oblak, which of these do you think will be most important to them as a team?
Oblak, without a doubt. Like, they need a keep. Like, David De Gea. Like, there was, you know, you rewind probably 3-4 years ago now. And
he's the best keeper in the world.
Best keeper in the world. Now, he is so bad. Like, he's terrible. Sadly. Not sadly, actually. I think it's pretty good. It's funny. But sadly for him, you know, you hate to see it because he was a top player. And, you know, there was one time he was linked with Real Madrid, I think, was it? For me, it's his presence as well, you know, like, you know he's there. You know, he's just a good keeper. But, like, you know, you look at De Gea, and although it is funny as an Arsenal fan to see so many mistakes, but, like, it is a shame. It's not really nice to see as well, because, like, I know, like, once your confidence starts to go, it's not the same. It's weird. Like, we think about these people as robots almost, and, you know, they're designed to do a job, but they're not. They're real life people, and they have feelings, and they know when things aren't right, and he knows, like, his confidence must be shot right now.
Oh, definitely.
And going back to it again, you know, like, if he was to sign for a club like Leicester, not that he would, like, Schmeichel's, you know, much better keeper than him at the moment, but, or maybe the likes of Wolves then, right? If he was to go and sign for the likes of Wolves, the pressure on him is a lot less, and you'd probably find him getting back to, like, I remember the game he had against us a few years back when we ended up getting beat off United, I think 2-1 in the end, and he saved everything. Like, I think he made like 7 or 8 world-class saves that day, and I was just like, this guy is a joke. And now, like, I'd fancy myself scoring a hat-trick against him.
I don't think he'll be joining the conference anytime soon or whatever, but we'll see. And there's a lot of rumours going around, and one final one that I want to bring up is Jack Grealish. And this is going to end up as a two-parter because of some of the stuff we brought up, some of the stuff we haven't.
Yeah.
Aston Villa's fate and Jack Grealish's fate are going to be very much interlinked. If Jack Grealish leaves Aston Villa, do you think they're going down next season?
It would be silly to just say yes or no. I think Aston Villa have got, like I said previous, they've got a lot of money to spend. Like, let's not get away from that at all. Like, they have got funds, and it's like Jack Grealish is like he's a Villa fan, he's a Villa boy through and through. And if he wants to stay at Villa, I don't sort of disrespect that. I just think that because he's a good player, he's a very good player. And if he wanted to, like, further his career right now, I don't think any Villa fan should, like, take that away from him either. Like, if he wanted to go and play in Champions League, because he deserves it. But is he going to be as good at a big side? Again, we've spoke about it, you know.
That's the danger.
You know, you look at the likes of Gareth Bale for Tottenham. He looked like one of the best players in the world. Look at him for Real Madrid. Different. And it is that sort of mentality, you know. It's having. He's at a small club mentality. The whole sort of team and the whole fans are built around Jack Grealish. He turns up every week knowing that he is the man, and you know, he obviously enjoys that. But you then go and put him in a Man United side who have been linked with him, and all of a sudden, 2 bad games, he's out of the side. You know, I don't know what's right for him. He's got to think. Obviously, it's his own choice, but.
Yeah, definitely.
To answer the question, would Villa get relegated? Let's not forget, they're going to get a lot of money for Jack Grealish. Like, they're talking 70 million.
Yes.
You know, you can go out and buy...
Do you think he's worth that?
I think so. I mean, let's not forget, like...
You put him up there.
Mate, he was winning games on his own last season.
Yes.
Like, I think...
Yes,
I think he's the best talent England have got right now.
That isn't it. I think he...
In terms of what he can do...
I'm very torn on it.
In terms of what he can do...
There's so many players in that midfield area that we have at the moment. Like, our midfield, I know it's difficult because you have that England hype, which can be so dangerous to players.
Absolutely.
But I still think we've got a good set. You've got Ali, Mount, Maddison, Grealish.
Don't. Dele Alli is the biggest overrated player. And I'm not just saying that because I'm an Arsenal fan.
Wait, Dele Alli?
Yeah, he's so overrated. If he was any other other nationality, he'd be bang average.
With a grain of salt, this is a Scottish Arsenal fan talking about an English Spurs player. Yeah, I'm going to take it with a grain of salt. No, but
seriously though, like, what has Dele Alli done in the last 3 years that you've said, actually, do you know what, that's world class?
How many assists? There were no standout moments. Oh, I don't know. I'm gonna have to look this up, but I've always rated him. He very confident on the ball. He's not a player that's going to shy away from a challenge, and he's an alternative option. You think of a lot of that's another COVID test. You think of a lot of these characters. Think of a David Silva that's obviously played his last game. A lot of them very small. He brings a different style of midfield that's could be in some would say out of fashion at the moment. And he's that taller, not aggressive midfielder, but stronger on the ball than those around him in a similar position.
Yeah, I don't know.
How did Ali do this?
You'll have to. Yeah, I'll take a lot of convincing on Dele Alli. I'm sorry, Jack Grealish over Dele Alli.
I'm going to win it. I'm going to be honest.
Mason Mount's got a lot to prove. He's still very young. Again,
I think Mason Mount is overrated.
Yeah, thank you.
Actually,
thank you. I mean, I don't like the overrated word in that term because he's not proven. There's a lot of hype surrounding him.
Overhyped, I think.
Overhyped for sure. But again, how many players have we? Go on, Dele Alli.
I'm just looking through this Arsenal squad and looking at how many names I've completely forgotten existed. Not Arsenal, sorry, Spurs squad.
Yeah.
Jedson Fernandez signed in January. I'd completely forgotten his name. Season. 8 goals and 4 assists in 25 games. Ain't horrific.
It's not bad. It's not bad.
It's not awful.
It's not bad, but I don't know. Like,
I think Grealish and Maddison take it at the moment for me. I think there are 2 best options.
Yeah, I think though, like, if you have Grealish, the Grealish that plays for Villa, because again, it's 2 mentalities. Yeah. We've seen it over the years with the likes of Steven Gerrard, Frank Lampard. When they go and play for England, they're not quite the same, and that's because it's a different mentality, and it's a different team. It's a different sort of like outfit. For those teams, they are the standout man. For Grealish, with Villa, he is the man. Whereas you go and
hero.
Yeah, exactly. And has he got I think he does have the mentality of that, like, that dogged mentality where he can just probably make it anywhere. Looking at him,
I think I'd written him off a few years ago, to be fair, because Villa went down. He had that incident.
Yeah.
I think it was him. I'd written him off.
Yeah.
I saw him as someone that was finished.
Yeah.
I was like, it's another Premier League small team talent.
Yeah.
Who's going to head down to the Championship? We're not going to see him again.
Yeah, but
he's proved me wrong. To be fair,
mate,
I think he could definitely do it again.
But for me though, like, if you're comparing him to other players, like, he's quick, he's strong.
Yeah,
he's not afraid to take a play.
As well.
He's smart. He sees a pass. He can finish. And he can he takes players on without even hesitating. Like, you compare that to any of the other England midfielders you've got, there's no one that does that to that level. I just think he's like, you've got other players like coming through, like Sancho and stuff that you mentioned, but I don't know, like, they're very young. Like, these are players that aren't sort of like, they're not proven. They're not like, I know you can argue like Grealish isn't, but you ask someone from like a Barcelona fan to talk about Jack Grealish, he's probably not going to know a whole lot about him. But my point here is that, we see him week in, week out, just taking the game that is literally like, Villa aren't in a game, and he's got the ball at his feet from the halfway line, and he runs past maybe 3 players and creates a goal, or scores a goal himself, and it's like, without him, they would have went down 100%. Would they go down next season? Going back to your question, I don't know. It's difficult.
Being honest, I've got them on my radar as someone that I can see going down, if I'm being brutally honest, because I want to see Brighton go down. Yeah, they're one of those teams where, this is good, where you just have a random grudge against them. No reason. No rivalries, just something about them.
Yeah, I'm the same.
They probably took out a team that I wanted to see stay in the league. It's probably what happened. But Brighton, I want them to go down, but they're the Wigan of the current day. They'll stay up.
Yeah.
So they're not headed down. I see Leeds and West Brom, 2 very strong teams, headed up. It's looking on the ropes for me.
Yeah.
Or for Villa.
Yeah, I think so. I think they've got to reinvest their money. To me, like,
definitely.
They've got to show that, because they've got it. Like, it'll be interesting. Time will tell, I guess.
It certainly will. But looking backwards now to a slightly different section, our next bit of the podcast, we're going to talk start, sub, and sell. Classic old game, and I've realised now, I think I know who you're going to start, but we'll roll out. I'm interested to see what your second decision will be. We've got three very, very big Premier League, current or former Premier League strikers. We've got Sergio Aguero, we've got Didier Drogba, and we've got Thierry Henry. And the question is simple. Who you're starting, who you're subbing, and who you're selling.
You know who I'm starting.
If he sells Henry, this is going to be the most glorious moment in podcast history.
You know who I'm starting.
I don't think it's happening,
I'm not even going to say it. You know who I'm starting.
I think we're clear there, yeah.
Who I'm subbing, it's a difficult one. It depends what football we're playing here. It depends. It depends what you got to give me some, like, if we're in a
final, I know which man I'm going for.
Yeah,
it's got to be Didier. He's the man when it comes to a final.
I completely agree, and that's what I was saying. You know, it depends what football we're playing. It depends what's on the line. Like if it's for a one-off game, absolutely, Didier Drogba gets a nod. You know, to come on for Henry once he's scored a hat trick, maybe. But then, yeah, like if it's a course of over a season, Aguero.
Okay, let's stick it in a situation then, because I think I have a way that we can make this interesting.
Yeah.
You're the current Liverpool manager, you're Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah.
Firmino's buggered off somewhere. I actually rate him very highly. I think anyone that reads football probably will agree on that.
Mm-hmm.
Although, obviously, you look on Twitter, there's certainly some critics of him.
Yeah.
You now need a striker.
Yeah.
Henry's your man up front. I'm guessing that would be one hell of a front three.
Yeah.
Mane, Henry and Salah would be ripping some teams a new one.
Yeah.
If you've got that Liverpool team, then who's your backup man?
Aguero.
Aguero or Drogba?
Aguero, because he fits the mould. You know.
He fits the mould. Okay.
Yeah, he fits the mould.
We're a little hurt, but I think I'll give it to you. I think all three are.
I think he fits the mould. You know, that sort of like small sort of like centre forward who literally will put himself in the right place at the right time and get a goal. You know, you can spin it the other way, and you can look at like what other team is up there right now. Like if we are talking about going back into maybe even Arsenal, like right now, trying to like come back, you know, into that sort of fray and challenge again. Drogba's getting the nod because we actually play maybe a bit more counter-attacking football now than we maybe did in the past. And you know, you get the ball out wide to Pepe, Aubameyang, or even Saka when he's playing, and then Drogba's in the middle. All of a sudden, we've got a target man. We can put the ball in there, knowing that he's going to get on the end of it, using his physicality and his strength, and get the goal. Whereas Aguero, I don't feel like would offer much to Arsenal currently. I mean, he would. Of course he would. I mean, he gets the nod over Lacazette any day. But what I'm saying is, like, he wouldn't like if you
create quite as much of a difference.
Exactly. If you put Drogba in there in an Arsenal squad right now without changing anything and play the season, we're going to finish probably 15 points higher than we would if we put Aguero in there.
Oh yeah.
Do you know?
15 points a game, but I'll give it to you.
Do you know what I mean?
It also would do beauties in the cup finals. That's always a
absolutely
a blessing.
Absolutely.
It pulls it down. I don't know whether you can see in the background. We've got a nice little poster there.
I can see.
What, 10?
Yeah, I can see.
Well, that would have been an early Chelsea memory. That one.
Yeah.
That Drogba header.
Yeah. But
that's certainly an interesting call. I think all any way around you put it. Not stunned by the start choice, I'm going to be brutally honest.
Mate, Henry gets a nod all day, every day.
I'd probably give it to him.
Mate. Come on.
I'm a Chelsea fan, but I've always been a big fan of, or was a big fan of Henry. So I only wasn't really around for it, but obviously I'd heard of Henry from when I was little. He was kind of that generation phasing out, a few years before my time, but he was kind of the one that I looked at as that striker that when you look back 5 years beforehand, the legendary 33, 34-year-old right now, he was the one that I looked at when that's the favourite, despite the fact he was, of course, playing for a rival. But it's certainly some interesting picks, and it's time to move on to another section. We're flying through
Let's
now.
Go.
Football Twitter. Certainly an interesting place. Some interesting opinions.
Mate, Twitter's...
And we've got a few of the best, and maybe the worst.
Yeah.
So, Pickford. Is he still England's number one? I'm very clear on this, I think, and I don't even know if he'd get in the squad, to be fair.
No, I agree. I don't
think he's on the plane.
I've never rated him. I hate his attitude as well. He's I hope he's watching this. He's a bit of a scumbag, to be honest. He just looks like, you know, I'm a very friendly person, like, and I like to be sort of like open arms to everyone, but he's just got a face. I don't like the guy. I don't like the guy.
Wasn't the direction I thought it would go, but fair enough.
I just don't like him. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think he's England's number one. He shouldn't be England's number one. In fact, he is, obviously, but like I don't think he should be.
I don't think he is anymore.
Is he not?
I think Dean Henderson takes the spot.
Oh, there we go.
Dean Henderson. I think, obviously, Sheffield have had a huge year.
Mate, they've been
But
insane.
he could be in that United number one spot next year.
Yeah, potentially.
It's on the cards.
Potentially.
If De Gea leaves, or it's not impossible.
Yeah.
I reckon Henderson will be at Sheffield next
Yeah.
year. I reckon he'll get another contract extension for a little bit of a longer loan. But he looks like he may well be the long-term man for United if it boils down to
Yeah.
it. Now, the interesting thing I find about Pickford is that, or the comparison I've always spoken about, especially my dad, me and my dad both agree, Joe Hart reincarnation. On his day, fucking spectacular.
Yeah, but
he is a hot mess.
mate, I'm not being
He
funny.
can't control his head in the slightest.
Nah.
And once it gets to his head, it can go downhill very, very quickly.
Yeah, for me, again, going back to it, I made a previous point. You guys want a challenge with top teams in the world, top nations.
Yeah.
You can't challenge. I mean, look, come on.
With an Everton goalkeeper.
For fuck's sake, can you swear on this podcast? Oh, you swore a second
Oh,
ago.
yeah, I've just said fucking spectacular everything. I think
But,
we'll
like,
be fine.
come on, like, Pickford, man. Like, I don't know. He's not good enough. I'm sorry.
He makes a few mistakes as well. I think what I said about the hot-headedness, you think back to Everton-Liverpool. Was it last year?
Yeah.
I think it was. Was it this year? My mind's gone. It's been such a weird 6 months. But the Everton-Liverpool game where it's the 90th minute and you have that Origi incident where he's just basically thrown it into his own net or tried to palm it back on despite the fact it's going over the bar. That kind of decision-making doesn't seem to be there.
I like
and it's been something that's haunted both him and Hart.
I like a keeper who can like command the area, and he's there, demands respect, is a big presence, a big personality. Like you look at Czech with you guys all them years ago. Like we've had players like Seaman, for example, but like they just demanded like respect. They commanded the area. Martinez is doing that job for us now. Like Leno, I rate him highly as a keeper, but Martinez since coming in has been like unbelievable. And just in terms of like number one, how he commands the area. Number two now in modern football distribution. Years ago keepers used to just get the ball, punt it out, and then deal with the consequences in 10 minutes time when the ball came back to them. Now keepers have to, especially the way Arsenal are trying to play, and like City play now. It's very important that keepers are able to control the ball, pass the ball, and distribute the ball in a way that's beneficial for the team. And Martinez over Leno for that, and I think like modern day goalkeeper needs to have that now. I think the days gone of just being a shot stopper is gone. Like you need to be able to stand there in the box, tower above people, and just like come out and catch the ball when your defence is under pressure. Rush out of your 18-yard box and make a headed clearance like we've seen Neuer do for years and years. There's so many more aspects to being a keeper now, and he doesn't have any of them. He might be an okay shot stopper, but to me, like you said, decision making, commanding the area, distribution, it's all very, very average. And to me,
average.
Yeah.
Who will I take on a plane for England next year? Just off the top of my head, I think Henderson and Pope are my top two. I've always been a fan of Ben Foster. I think he'd be good there, just for the reason that for a number 3 keeper, someone that's unlikely to play, a bit of experience doesn't hurt. And Foster is one of those. He's a key figure in the dressing room.
I agree.
He may be 38, I think he is now.
Wow.
He's certainly aged. I think he was born 80. Yeah, he was born 1983, so he was around 37, 38 age.
Wow.
I'd be tempted to see him as a wild card, just in case Henderson, or if Pickford is on the plane, jumping in as a backup. But there's certainly some controversial picks there. I think this is an interesting one, actually. I'm going to run out of camera space. Young and Papa Cisse were better January signings than Bruno Fernandes. I had a look at their stats earlier in their January first window, making an impact to the team. Cisse got 13 goals in 14 games for Newcastle.
Yeah.
Alba, I think, had 10 in 13. And then Bruno's had 8 goals and 7 assists so far this season. Do you think Fernandes has had more of an impact than them. I think you certainly can draw comparisons to Aubameyang. Where do you compare the two of them in their first 6 months?
This is going to sound biased, but I am actually not a biased fan. Like, I know I've probably came across as biased.
I can't blame.
on this podcast so far, I have came across as biased because you've asked.
Opinions are interesting. I'd much rather have an opinion than somebody who just came in and said, "Yeah." The better opinions, the better stuff I can clip for Instagram.
Exactly. Where was I? So, yeah, like I've came across like biased on this podcast so far, but that's because there's been a lot of Arsenal questions, and this is another sort of one that, you know, Man United fans will of course argue Fernandes has been like exceptional, and I think he has. Like, to be honest with you, like, I don't really like. You said he's had 8 goals.
He scares me, to be fair.
He's had 8 goals, right? Probably 5 of them has been penalties.
Yeah,
it'd be interesting.
True.
Five, at least 4, right, have been penalties. So, you know, he can discard the goals, but like actually what he's done for the team in terms of like creating a different dynamic has been exceptional. He's not afraid to try stuff and pass the ball forward. He's very much like I've played, you know, albeit not to that sort of standard, but I've played football for a lot of years in that sort of similar position, and it's good to see a player just like not caring if he doesn't actually make the pass and just like try it. And like you seen his game against Norwich, I think it was, where he was heavily criticised. I think he only had his pass percentage was very poor, but he also created a lot of chances, and that's because he's not afraid to just get the ball at his feet and pass it forward. And there's too many midfielders now, especially in the Arsenal team, and especially with the problem United had before, and that's why they were so poor in my opinion, is they got the ball and they were very determined to hold on to it and not look like they were making mistakes. And I feel like that's a very good trait to have as a defender, but as a midfielder, especially a creative one, you need to be able to put your neck on the line and say, do you know what, I don't care if I make a mistake, I'm going to try and make this pass. If it comes off, we score, and if it doesn't, you know, the fans might think I'm playing shit, but that's okay, because I know it might not be, you know, now in the 10th minute, it might not be in the around the half-time mark, it might take until the 85th minute, but one of these passes are going to come off and it's going to create a chance. So I think he's been great for United in that sense. I think we should stop judging him on his goals, because like I say, most of them have been penalties, which, don't get me started on United this year. 20 penalties this year. Highest.
Is it 20?
20 penalties. They broke the record in the Premier League for most penalties. And it just annoys me, like, again, as an Arsenal fan, like, I seen Mike Dean award as a penalty the other day against Watford. It took him about half an hour. Obviously VAR was telling him that it was a penalty, and he just kept saying no and no and no.
One, wasn't it?
Yeah, which was a stonewall penalty. Like, you know, he clattered into the back of him, nowhere, not even looking at the ball, like anywhere else.
I wasn't sure on it, actually.
Oh man,
I don't know whether Lacazette was going anywhere with that.
No, he wasn't.
Could barely
but
you
can't jump into a
You
penalty.
can't. I agreed. I think it was a penalty. I wouldn't say it was stonewall. Lacazette didn't particularly have control. I think the fact that he's been taken down in the box in that way in a half chance has to be taken as a pen. Wouldn't say it's stonewall though. I wouldn't argue that. I don't think he had full control, and he was facing the wrong direction.
Yeah, but
which isn't a clear goal scoring chance in my eyes.
After you've been sort of given the evidence, so from VAR saying it's a penalty. Like Mike Dean was trying to do everything in his power. Did you see his face after he gave the penalty? Like, he was borderline. He was borderline depressed. Look that up. Look it up right now. Honestly, just type in Mike Dean awards penalty for Arsenal and see his face. Like, he's had an agenda against Arsenal for years, and I'm not just saying that. Whereas they love United, and it does my head in. They just give United everything. It's so frustrating to see. But yeah,
who's he an avid supporter of? He's
Tranmere.
Someone in the mid-tier. I remember him in the playoffs last year for the team.
Tranmere.
Oh no, he doesn't look too bad. Tranmere, that's the one. No, he doesn't look too happy, to be fair. He's certainly not in his prime. Now, apologies, I've had to kind of cut the last 10 minutes out a little bit because the technical issues and stuff really started to come out in those last 10. Now, I'm going to do one little thing, which the quiz, which we normally have at the end of each episode, I am going to stick up in one of our clips, which I'm going to cut together for later in the week. So you will be able to see how Rich did in an FA Cup quiz, 5 big questions. So you'll be sure to check that out. It should be up on the channel in a couple of days' time. But for now, I hope you guys have enjoyed. As I said at the beginning, go subscribe to me. Go subscribe to Rich, both will be down below. Other than that, I hope you guys have enjoyed. Be sure to come back next time for probably another, there is another Formula 1 month. We've got JJ Loza coming up next week. Until then, peace.